Okay, so what you've done now is you've gone through your comparative data, you've pulled it out, you've transferred it over to your ratio scorecard, and you've got a completed scorecard. What I'd like to do is just go through, I did a completed scorecard too, and let's just go through and summarize where we're at now. Our current ratio, the trend is what? Down. Is he high or low as it relates to the brothers?
Way low.
Way low, okay, he's low. That's way low. Quick ratio, his ability to generate cash, trend down. Is he high or low?
Low.
He's low. Debt to worth, trend up. Is he high or low? He's high. In this case, high is good or bad?
Bad.
Bad. So far, bad, bad, bad. Gross margin, trend down, and is he high or low? Low. And by the way, when we had 3 choices in the comparative data, those rows that go across, the one we picked, I asked you to pick the middle one. That represents the 50th percentile, meaning what? Half above and half below. And the other 2, because the question always seems to come up, is the top one is the bottom of the upper quartile, or the upper 25%, it's the bottom, and correspondingly, the lower one is the top of the lower quartile. You with me? Now, don't ask me what that means or who uses it. When we used these in the bank, they always said use the middle. So we did. Be at least as good as the middle. So we're not comparing him against who? The best or the worst. We're comparing him against the middle of the road. And he's out around on his margin by how much? He's higher? He's low, isn't he? By how much? He's getting 18.5. The brothers are getting 22.2. He's out around by how much? 3.7%. Isn't that right? 3.7 margin points. Gross profit margin points. That a lot? Yeah, that's a lot. And we might, I heard somebody round it to 4, and that's doable. We'll come back and talk about that. Net margin, trend down, and is he high or low?
Very low.
I would say he's off the map. He has succeeded in practically eliminating any profit. Sales to assets, the efficiency of his assets in producing sales, high or low? Low by 50 cents for every dollar, isn't that right? 1.9, $1.90 to $2.40. ROA, he's getting 0.56. The brothers are getting 6.9%. He's off the map again, and we know that because his profits are almost nil, aren't they? ROI, same thing, off the map because we know he's so low. Inventory turns, he's getting 4.2 turns. The brothers are getting 4.9. He's out around by how much? 7/10 of a turn. What do you suppose is going to happen if I go up to my customer and say, pardon me, but did you know you're out around by 7/10 of a turn? What's he likely to say? Huh? Huh? Doesn't sound like a lot. It's less than 1. So we then tried to put this in a different form, didn't we? We said, well, let's look at this instead of in turns. Let's look at it in what? Days. So you're out around, and he's low, by the way. You're out around on days. He's high. He's got more days because it sits there longer. By how many days? 12 days. Did you know you're out around by 12 days? What's he thinking? Well, it's less than 2 weeks. Isn't that right? People always rationalize things, don't they? Here's the point, and here's where we want to go. Turns translate into days. Days are time, and time is money. If we could translate those 12 days into what? Dollars. Then we might know, and it might be more instructive to us to know how much is tied up in inventory that we don't have. So we'll go there. Receivables. He's getting 8 turns. The brother's 8.5. Right? Is he high or low? He's low, right? But he's only what? A little low. He's only a little low, but so it doesn't seem like much. So we look down in ratio number 12. He's at 45 days. The brother's at 43. He's out around. He's high by how many days? 2 days. Did you know you're out of round by 2 days? What's the response likely to be? Call it a weekend. Or if you're out of round by 3 days, call it what? A long weekend. People, if they're going to make an excuse, they will come up with it, won't they? And that's really what this is all about. We're measuring him, and he's going to be doing what? Pushing back. He's going to be, can we expect that? That's sort of a human nature response, isn't it? And what are we going to hear? Oh, it's a tough market. I'm in a really tough market. Yeah, aren't we all? Oh, it's an unusual time. Something happened. In other words, a whole lot of what? He'd call them reasons. We'd call them excuses. These are doable things. These are doable things. All right, and then accounts payable. His turns are 5.7, so he's low by a lot. And if we can't quite get our arms around the turns, we'll translate it into days. He's paying in 63, and the brother's in what? 37. Now, there's sometimes when people think, well, the way I manage the business financially, it's not that important. It doesn't have that much impact on the overall business and how it's growing. Is it possible that, let's see, he pays in 63 days, the brother's in 37, and I'm a supplier. Who am I going to ship to? I'm going to ship to the guy who pays. And if there's a shortage or it's a seasonal business, he's going to get his stuff what? Not as much or late. If you miss your season, in the ski season, if you get your supplies in February, you're what? Toast. Absolutely toast. Garlic toast. So the point is, the way this scorecard looks can indeed have an impact on how the industry and his success will fare, how they treat him. All right, so overall we see he's doing what? Not so hot. Not so hot. Is that right? Okay, now, a couple of things that I want to talk about. Number one, let's talk about working capital and see how long the dollar is gone. So if you remember our working capital cycle, we start with cash, and he invested in inventory. How long is it sitting there? Ratio number?
85 days.
Ratio number? 10. 85.7, 86 days it sits there. Isn't that right? And then he sells it. And then down in ratio number 12, how long is it sitting as a receivable? 45 days. How long is the dollar gone before it comes home to mama? 131 days. And what does he do in the meantime?
He sucks air. Oops.
Kind of. I've had people in the past say he prays, and that's true. I've had people say that he borrows. Sometimes someone said he prays that he can borrow. He's borrowing because he can't get the money back in time. Isn't that right? It's gone for 131 days. And if we think of this as a cycle, the circle, after 131 days, what falls out the bottom of that in ratio number 5? A little tiny bit of what? Profit. How much? After 131 days, the dollar's gone. How much falls out? 3/10 of a penny. 3/10 of a penny. He reminds us before tax. I think it's not that material, but what's he going to do with it? Now, do you remember back to the 3 uses of profits? He's going to reinvest so he can do this exciting cycle again. I mean, personally, I am jazzed. He's going to eat. This could be a beans and rice type program. And he's going to, what's the third thing? Repay debt. Take a look at your balance sheet and tell me how much debt he has and I want you to circle a couple of numbers. Number 1, note payable bank. The first line under the liabilities section. How much is it?
288.
Circle it. What's the next line called? Current portion of the long-term debt. How much is it? 25. Circle that one. And then he's got some long-term debt down there, doesn't he? How much is that? 89. Circle that. How much debt does our guy have here that he's going to use this 3/10 of a penny or what's left of it to pay back? What's the number? Somebody quickly run the number. 282, 25, and 89. 396,000, or close enough, $400,000 he owes, and he's going to pay it back with 3/10 of a penny. In a pig's what? The chances of this happening are what? Nil. At this point, he doesn't have enough coming in to service his current level of debt. And he's here because he wants what? More money. Now, let me just pose a question. What's even dumber than making a bad loan once? You've passed the test. We can be bankers. Doing it again. He's going to have to give me a reason, isn't he? Give me a reason to believe. And so far, what are the numbers telling me? The numbers are telling me Now, he's making about $5,000. Isn't that his profit after tax at the bottom of his income statement? Isn't he making about let's just round it to 5,000. So he says to me, I'll tell you what, I could pay back that $400,000 with my profits if you would simply amortize it over 80 years. This is not likely to happen, is it? This is not likely to happen. Maximum length, 5, 6, 7 years probably, depending on what kind of an asset, and we'll get into that in a later section. Maybe 10 or 15 if it's a building, or 20. But 80? I don't think so. There's something wrong here. Now, how about this as a quasi-explanation, quasi-threat? You've got to loan me the money. I've got $400,000 of your money. As I said before, throwing what? Good money after bad? Not a good choice. What we have here is a disconnect. I'm going to need some kind of information from him. I'm going to need to see some kind of a plan that fixes this. This is not rocket science here, is it? Now, if we improve some of these, we get closer to where now it's a judgment call. Isn't that right? And we go on the other side, if the numbers look really good, it's also an easy call, a no-brainer, as it were. Right now, some would argue this is a no-brainer as well. On which side? Thumbs down. You've got to loan me the money. My father banked here for 25 years. What's the answer? I knew your father, and you're not him. I think that was used in a presidential debate once. Anyway, we've got a situation here that's got to be dealt with, and we can't fix it at the bank. Who's the only person who can fix this? Him, the owner. It would be really good if he never got himself in this spot, but now we got to figure out a way to fix it. Is there a way to fix it? He's in hot water. Now think about this. When is the time in your business careers when you learn the most about running a business? In good times or bad times? We learned a lot in bad times, so he's in for an incredible education, apparently. Wouldn't that be right? Why do we learn more in bad times than good times? I would say it's because we have to. And then good times come, and what do? party until there's bad times so we can do some more learning? I don't know. It seems like it goes through a cycle up and down. Very hard to maintain a high level of focus and discipline, isn't it? Just like sports teams. Hard to win once. Really hard to win 2, 3, 4. And when you go back and see sports teams that won 7 in a row, literally unbelievable that someone could get to that high of a level of performance. Now, we've got someone who could make a significant improvement in the level of performance and still be below par, isn't that right? So there's room to work here. This is like clay. We've got room to mold this. The other thing I want to say is, I have to ask myself, are these real? Are these numbers real? We need to know if he has good information. This is his report card. Now think about this. If you were back in 6th grade, this would be your what? Report card. What did you do when you got a bad report card? You hid it. They will send out another one usually. In our school, in my school, we were graded A through F. Now, I thought to myself, okay, he'll never know. Years later, my dad said to me, by the way, you should have used the same color ink, idiot stick. If you're going to cheat, at least be what? Smart. But who are we cheating? Ourselves. And in the case of a business, many of us have a great deal of our assets invested in that business. Isn't it right? Isn't that right? Same 6th grade. You don't want to go to school. You wake up one day and you don't want to go to school, so you have to get sick, but you're not sick. So you have to what? Fake it. So you wake up and you tell your mom, geez, I think I got a fever. Remember back when they had real glass thermometers and she comes in? And she's standing there and you go, could I have some hot chocolate? She leaves the room and you hold it up to what? The light bulb. And she comes back to ask you if you want marshmallows and you hear her coming, ah! She goes, 118. You're dead. Must be some problem here. Roll over. The interesting thing is, when you don't pay attention to your numbers, the world has a way of doing that to you. And it's interesting because it's so doable to pay attention to the numbers. This process is not difficult. One of the things we need now, though, there's a lot of numbers here. We need some kind of a scorecard, some kind of a roadmap to help us find out where are the holes and how do we plug them. And it has to do with me talking to my customer and saying, this causes that, that ties to that, and that causes that. And people have a hard time following. I get excited about this stuff. So I built a roadmap that will take us through a picture, if you will. I believe we can respond to pictures pretty well. I build a picture, and when we get back together, we'll take a look at that picture, apply our numbers, and see where the holes are and where the opportunities are to help our guy. All right?